Jason, middle-aged man, father of two, has a wife. He's doing Uber on the side at 4:21 p.m. that day. Matt gets into the car. So he gets a call, and he puts it on Bluetooth, the driver. And it's a call from his son. Now his son is just asking, hey, like, mom wants to know if you're gonna be home for dinner. Immediately after he hangs up that call, he books it. He was going 80 to 90 miles an hour in his Chevy Equinox, and he's like, listen, you just hit that car. And then the Uber driver goes, no, I didn't. What are you talking about, right? And stops in the middle of a residential street. Literally, Matt comes tumbling out, and a neighbor witnessed this. They immediately both call 911, takes a screenshot of his Uber ride with his name, Jason, and his picture, and his car make, right? And there's not much he can do, so he goes to his friend's house, and he forgets about it. Guess who didn't forget about it? The Uber driver. He loved guns. After this Uber ride, he goes back home to put on a bulletproof vest and takes one of his 15 weapons, brings it in with the car, and he goes back out into the streets of Kalamazoo. He gets in his car with all of that on, right? After stopping by the house, and he opens up his Uber app and accepts another ride. Now this time it was a 15-year-old girl by the name of Macy who had requested an Uber ride from the apartment complex that she lived in. He heads over to the Meadows, and he can't seem to find her. So he literally calls her, and he's like, where the hell are you? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't find you. You gave me wrong directions. Blah, blah, blah. And Macy's like, huh? And then he hung up on her. And so she texted the number that she has through her Uber app saying like, hey, are you all good? Are you coming? Are you here? Like, what's going on? You know? He never responded. He does, however, pull into the Meadows parking lot of that apartment complex, and he sees a group of people. Now, the group of people he saw was a bunch of kids and a mother by the name of Tiana. Tiana is a 25-year-old mother. She lives in the Meadows complex. And she has a daughter. Now, her daughter was playing outside in the snow with her friends, and she comes inside and she goes, Mom, 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 can we go over to Joy's house? Can we go to Joy's house? Yeah. And she's like, who's Joy? And then Joy's like, I'm Joy. Can we go to my house? Can we go to my house? And she's like, where's your house? Across the street. So then she's like, okay, I'm going to walk you guys there, and I'm going to say hi to Joy's mom, make sure she's okay with all of you guys. It was like 8 kids or something like that going over to Joy's house, right?
They just all live around there, so they're friends.
Yeah. It's like neighborhood kids, you know? And she's not walking across like a big intersection. It's literally the apartment complex.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, she just finished a workout. She grabs her keys. She goes with all the kids, and they're walking. When all of a sudden, they see a Chevy Equinox just zooming down, right? And it stops right in front of Tiana. And he looks at her, Jason, the Uber driver, the one who was just driving all crazy, looks at her face to face and goes, are you Macy? And Tiana's like, no, I'm not Macy. And she was kind of saying it aggressively, she admitted, which I think is all in her right, because he's driving where kids are playing 90, you know, like, it's like, what the hell are you doing in an apartment complex where there's kids, you know? So she goes, no, I'm not Macy. And so he U-turns and zooms out of there. And she keeps walking, but she's keeping an eye out on the car.
Yeah.
Right, so she's walking the kids, and the kids are kind of creeped out, and suddenly she said it's almost like she saw it in slow motion, but like it seemed like he was going 90 miles an hour in reality. Zooms back to the kids.
No.
And once he's eye to eye level,
he left and then U-turned and came right back.
And once he was at eye level with Tiana, he pulls out a gun.
Oh my gosh.
And Tiana just tells the kids, run, do everything you can to run. And she, like, once the kids got a little bit further, she started running too. And she blocked all of the bullets from the kids. And so neighbors are coming out. You hear all this frantic calling of 911s. All the neighbors are calling. People are freaking out. The kids are running. She's blocking all the hits, right? And then she was telling this in an interview with ABC. She was like, at one point...
She survived.
Yeah, at one point she said, I knew that if I kept going, he would keep going. So she fell to the ground and acted like she died. He was out for cold blood. Kids were unharmed. The neighbors said that the minute that they got to Tiana on the ground, right, they were like, we called 911, please stay with us, stay with us. And all she did was ask, are the kids okay? Are the kids okay? Are the kids okay? All the calls to the 911 dispatcher, Chevy Equinox, dog in the backseat, Uber sign. So suddenly they're like, holy shit, this sounds a little bit familiar, holy shit. So they call Matt back, and they go, hey, listen, do you remember the name of the Uber driver? We're just trying to see if it matches with another incident that we're having. They didn't really tell him a lot, right? And he goes, oh yeah, like if you guys have an email or something, I can send you the screenshot of his picture and his name. It didn't have his last name for all I know, right? Yeah. I don't think it did. Now here's where the police kind of dropped the ball. So a lot of people are criticizing the police because they couldn't get in contact with who this Jason person was, and they also they just didn't know who he was. I guess maybe the license plate wasn't showing in that screenshot at the time. It was just they couldn't get him. What they could have done and should have done is contact Uber to track down, because he probably had his Uber app on, which means direct GPS, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't. I don't know why. The police decided not to reach out to Uber, even though a crime was committed. Jason is still on the loose, and around 5:43 p.m., he's running through all of these red lights, driving erratically, and he gets into an accident. And they know this because the person stopped on the side of the road and calls in for a hit and run, and it was a Chevy Equinox. Seemed like there was a dog in the back, and it had an Uber sign. And so the police are like, holy. Now, the good thing about this, well, the good and the bad thing, right? The good thing at the time, but then later turned out to be really bad, is that his Chevy Equinox, it was still operable. So he could still drive it anywhere he could, but it had such a significant front bumper damage that it's like any police officer who is scanning the area for a Chevy Equinox, immediately. You don't even have to pull them over. You know that's your criminal, right?
Yeah.
So then he calls his wife as he's driving away from the hit and run and says, hey, meet me at my parents' house because his parents were out of town. You know, come meet me. So she comes in her car.
She doesn't know what's going on.
No, she has no idea. She thinks it's just a normal weekend. He's just doing some Uber drives. And he's frantically looking at her. She's like, oh, what's the damage on this car, right? And he gives her the craziest story of how cab drivers were shooting at him. She's like, what? He goes into his parents' house, gets a gun for her, says, hold this, don't leave the house, keep the kids with you, don't take the kids to school on Monday. Also on Monday, you're not going to be able to go to work. And she's like, what's going on? He gives it to her and he's like, stay safe. You're going to hear about me in the news, but I can't tell you what I'm doing. He's like looking for a car. In his parents' parked garage is a Chevy. Oh, and then he drives home to switch out his weapon because he said it didn't work well with Tiana.
Jesus.
Right, so then he goes home, switches it out. Now he keeps driving on by. At this time, it's nighttime, around 10 p.m. And now we come across the Smith families. Rich, who is the father, and Tyler, who is the son of the Smith family. They have a wife and they also have another daughter, right?
Yeah.
And the son, Tyler, he's a soccer player. He has a beautiful girlfriend named Alexis. And Alexis, Rich, and Tyler, so dad, son, and the son's girlfriend, they decide to head over to Kia. This was around 10 p.m. So he's like so excited. He wants a pickup truck, the son, and he's looking at this electric blue Kia. So they park, they leave the car on that they came in, a Range Rover, the dad's car. Leave the headlights on. They just get out the front. Alexa stayed in the back because she was like, I'm not into cars, I'm not into pickup trucks, and it's really late out and I'm cold, right? Because it was snowing still, right?
Yeah. So
she's in the back seat and they're checking out the car. Jason's driving by in his new Chevy HHR, right? And then he sees the dad and the son, and he immediately pulls into the Kia dealership.
Huh.
Now, Alexis told everybody what happened, and there is security footage, I believe, but he gets out of his car, and they don't even really notice. This is the first time he walked out of his car at this point. And he goes up to the son and the dad and goes, hey, what are you guys looking at? And they go, oh, this pickup truck, and he shoots 16 rounds. And they were both dead on the spot. Now, Alexis at this time, she saw all of this happening. Alexis freaks out and she just hides in the back of this Range Rover. Unlocked car, back seat, not even the driver's seat, and the headlights are on and she's seeing all of this, right?
Yeah.
She's hearing all of this. Freaks out. He leaves. He tries to open another car door. It wasn't that car, the Range Rover. It was like a Kia, right? He tries to open. It's not unlocking. So then he walks away to the back of the dealership, and I think that's where he got into his car and then left. Now, at this point, Alexis is sitting there so scared.
Gosh.
And here's the crazy thing. Conveniently and so luckily, she didn't bring her phone that day to the Kia dealership. And police are suspecting, like, your first instinct is to call 911.
Yeah.
And that bright phone light might have been what caused him to go find her.
Yeah.
So, like, she was so lucky that day. I mean, as lucky as you can be in this situation, right?
Yeah.
So she freaks out, she sneaks out, and she goes to Tyler, her boyfriend,
my gosh.
and grabs his phone and calls 911. Immediately, minutes after, the 911 dispatch, already busy with all of the phone calls of today, gets another round of frantic calls. But this time, they're thinking, okay, maybe it's other people who saw what happened at the dealership, right? But no. They get a call, and it's a bunch of frantic people saying, in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel, the restaurant, there have been multiple shots fired,
Wait, this
right?
is the next location now.
Next location within minutes, and it was very close to the dealership, right?
Yeah.
And so they start freaking out. Police show up at the scene. Bullets were fired into 2 cars that were parked inside of the restaurant. Now, later we find out that the cars belong to a woman named Mary. These are all elderly women, except for the exception of one. So there's Mary, Judy, and Barbara, and then Barbara's adopted granddaughter, Abby. They went to Cracker Barrel first to eat together, and then went to theater, and then Mary was like, she's older. So Mary's like, listen, let's all take one car. So let's leave my car parked here. She has a van. Leaves it parked. They come back to Cracker Barrel so she can get into her car. This is pertinent to the story. So one car had 4 people. Mary, Judy, Barbara, and Barbara's granddaughter.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other one had Mary in it, and they were saying bye for the night after spending a good day together. And all of a sudden, a man walks up to Mary. She's alone in her van and says, do you have $1 to spare to make America great again? And she says, yeah. And she says, no, I'm sorry, I don't have $1 to spare. And he pulls out his weapon, and Mary is dead on the spot. Essentially, she's the only one in this car. The car is parked right here. There's 4 people in there. Obviously, they're going up in hysterics, and so he fires rounds into there. Every single person was shot in that car. However, when police arrive on the scene, they realize that one of the elderly women, she's conscious. She's been shot, but she's conscious. Her name is Barbara, and she's pointing at like her granddaughter Abby, who's hiding in like the floorboard, right, like just like hunched over. She had been shot in the head, and so they immediately call the ambulance. She still seemed alive, right? Rush her to the hospital. Bunch of miracles happen, right? She gets to the hospital. Barbara's at the hospital. Hospital's on full lockdown because they can't find whoever did this. And Abby was pronounced dead. So they announced her time of death, and they were preserving her body to make sure that she could give transplants, right? So that someone else could take her heart, her kidneys, and all of that. And her mom was crying. Her mom was crying on her chest and just saying, Abby, like saying her goodbyes. And suddenly she hears something. And it's crazy because the news were even reporting, okay, Abigail was dead, you know, blah, 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 at the hospital, passed at the hospital. And so she hears a heartbeat. And she tells the nurse, I think I heard a heartbeat. And the nurse is kind of like, okay, well, we don't think so, but we'll check anyway, right? And sure enough, there was a heartbeat. And another heartbeat. And another heartbeat. She had already been legally pronounced dead. And more heartbeats. And her mom is holding her hand and is going, Abigail, it's your mama. If you hear me, do say something. Give me a sign, right? And she squeezed her mom's hand.
No.
And so the entire room turned into and she's alive right now. She learned how to walk again. She has a plate on her head because it completely shattered her skull. Gosh. And she says the worst part about all of this is that she doesn't even know why. Nobody knows why he did this.
Still?
It gets crazy. He'll give you a reason, but nobody believes it. Finally, the cops were stopping any black-colored Chevy, right, that they could find. This was about their 8th traffic stop, and sure enough, it was Jason. And the cops called for backup. They were thinking it was gonna be a crazy. They got out the car. They had all their weapons drawn. They asked him to put his hands out, and he got arrested very peacefully. Didn't argue, didn't try to fight. They found weapons on him. They found that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. And even on the body cams of the cops and like the dash cams of the car, they were like, how come he didn't try to fight us? Yeah. Every time they try to ask him for a motive, he keeps dodging the subject. Now the police are trying to find like good cop, you know, get comfortable with him. And finally he says, well, if I tell you what happened, it'll blow your mind. And they go, well, let's try it. You know, we got time. Yeah. So he goes,
well, I opened up the Uber app that day and I saw an Eastern Star. And then all of a sudden, my Uber app, so from the driver's perspective, in 2016, it would be black. Like the screen is black. Yeah. And he said, but all of a sudden, the black screen turned red and there was a devil's face on it. And ever since that devil's face popped up, and every time the Uber app goes red, I wouldn't be me anymore. It would just come over me and I'd be possessed by the devil. The devil told me to do it.
And so the police are like, what? Right? So then he's like, yeah. And then finally, all of a sudden, also the Uber app would ding, right? And every time it dinged, it's like a yes or a no. So if it dings once, it's a yes. If it dings twice, it's a no. Nobody really knows what he's talking about because like even people who studied Uber in 2016, they're like, there is no 1 or 2 ding. It's like a ding, ding, ding when you get a passenger. So maybe he was hearing things, you know? And finally, January rolls up and he pleads guilty. No one was expecting it. People thought he was going to go with the insanity plea because of him saying the Uber app told me to. 1 month later, February 2019, so like a month ago, he was convicted, guilty, life sentence without the chance of parole. And then even the judge said the only people who know why you're going to do this, because he never said why, ever. The only people who know really your reason is you and God. That is the story of Jason. The most
scary,
horrific Uber ride. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!